Now on BBC One at just after 14 minutes past 11, the news and sport with Michael Burke.
More than 125,000 people are now known to have died in the Bangladesh cyclone. Millions of survivors face famine and disease. And the Queen leads the nation in remembering the dead of the Gulf War. Good evening. It's been a day of mourning in Bangladesh, where the official death toll from Tuesday's cyclone is now put at more than 125,000. It's still rising. Thousands more bodies are being found as the floodwaters recede and the rescuers reach the worst-hit areas. Places like Sandwip Island in the Bay of Bengal. Jeremy Bowen's report from there may upset you.
Human bodies and the carcasses of dead animals rot in the paddy fields on Sandwip Island. They lie where they were left by the floodwater when it receded. Wrecked ships clogged the shallow strait that separates Sandwip from the mainland. Floods made it impossible to reach the island until today. We travelled on the first helicopter to land on Sandwip since the disaster. 350,000 people lived here. The army estimates 30 to 50,000 of them were killed. The village of Rahmathpur took the full force of the storm. About 1,000 people who crowded into the cyclone shelter were saved. It was full by the time Abdul Batan arrived with his family. They were turned away. They returned to their home, he said, so they could die together. His wife and children were killed. He doesn't understand how he survived. Misery is everywhere in Rahmathpur. Banu Rahman's babies, her husband, mother and father were swept away. This child's mother had just been buried. Her father found her body this morning. Almost all the village's food was destroyed by the cyclone. Most of the people have hardly eaten since Monday, and there's no fresh water.
Disease is now the biggest problem for the people on this island. About 40% of the survivors already have dysentery. Local health workers expect an epidemic of typhoid.
A pitifully small amount of aid has reached Sandwip and dozens of places like it in this area. The army has 2 helicopters to supply 5 million people. The general in charge of relief said he was ashamed to show his face in public. He's doing his best, but they need help from abroad, and it hasn't arrived. The stench of rotting corpses hangs over the paddy fields on Sandwip. The crops have been poisoned. They were 2 weeks away from the security of the harvest. Now the people left face disease and starvation. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, on Sandwip Island, Bangladesh.